Good evening. I'm Nathaniel Dewick, filling in for Nima Rajan, and this is Forum Daily for Friday, February 10th. We begin the newscast tonight with the latest employment numbers from Statistics Canada. The economy added 150,000 jobs in January, blowing past economists' expectations. The Canadian economy has added a total of 326,000 jobs since September. This despite forecasts warning that higher interest rates would slow the economy and weigh on employment. Wholesale and retail trade posted the largest gains to employment, adding 59,000 jobs, followed by 40,000 in healthcare and social assistance. Most of the jobs were full-time, with 25 to 54-year-olds driving the gains. A First Nation on the northwest coast of Vancouver Island has declared a state of emergency over the deaths of 6 young people from drug overdoses over the past few months. A statement from Ihatasat First Nation says its chief and council are calling on officials from the BC and federal governments to sit down with them to help find the resources necessary to create a survival plan. Concerns are arising around the lack of consultation with Indigenous leaders before Ottawa signed a contract with an international organization. Kimberly Murray, the government's special appointee on unmarked graves, says she raised her concerns about a lack of transparency and the risks of causing harm directly with Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Mark Miller. Mr. Miller's department is spending $2 million to hire the International Commission on Missing Persons. It specializes in identifying the remains of those who have been killed or gone missing in major conflicts and disasters. Ms. Murray is worried about the Commission's lack of experience working with residential school survivors. Well, the spring's federal budget can't come soon enough for Canada's aid sector, which hopes no cuts will be seen. The Trudeau government has pledged to boost funding for international development every year. But aid groups fear officials might peg that promise to pre-pandemic spending levels as Ottawa hones in on projects linked to climate change and reproductive health. Canada spent $6 billion in foreign aid the year before the pandemic, but that figure has risen to more than $8 billion as Ottawa has helped countries cope with COVID-19 and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. International Trade Minister Mary Ng has told a parliamentary committee investigating the details of her ethics violation that she hopes Canadians will see the sincerity in her efforts to make amends. Federal Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion ruled last December that Minister Ng broke a section of the Conflict of Interest Act. This by failing to recuse herself from a spring 2020 decision by her office to hire a public relations firm co-founded by her friend. Ms. Ng admits she made a mistake and told the committee she has arranged for the ethics commissioner to deliver training. Moving west to British Columbia, where former Premier John Horgan announced he is speeding up his retirement plans. Mr. Horgan gave an emotional farewell speech in the legislature yesterday, saying he has loved every minute of his 30-year career at the provincial legislature. The 63-year-old has twice battled cancer, but says he is healthy and that he hasn't ruled out accepting a political appointment in the future. While turning to a major infrastructure announcement where the federal and Ottawa governments are investing in what they are describing as Canada's largest battery storage project. Premier Doug Ford says the Oneida Energy Storage Project in Oswego will draw and store electricity off-peak when power demand is low and return it when demand increases. The Six Nations of the Grand River First Nation has also invested in the project and is providing 97% of the construction workforce to build it. Calgary-based pipeline company Enbridge is reporting a fourth quarter loss of $1.1 billion. The company says it took a $2.5 billion non-cash goodwill impairment charge related to its gas transmission business. Enbridge has reaffirmed its 2023 financial guidance, forecasting earnings of between $15.9 billion and $16.5 billion. Cold weather has inflicted devastating damage to vineyards in Nova Scotia. President of the Grape Growers Association of Nova Scotia has said it will take years for the vineyards to recover from the recent extreme cold snap. Steve Ells says between 95 and 100% of Nova Scotia-grown vinifera variety grapes, used for Chardonnays, Pinot Noirs, and Rieslings, were lost because of the extreme cold. Mr. Ells says the level of damage is the worst he's seen in his 12 years of business, and it will take years to recover. Well, turning to a different kind of cold trend now, cold plungers are the coolest recent celebrity trend, with stars like Kim Kardashian, Harry Styles, and Lizzo posting on social media about the benefits of plunging into frigid water or taking ice baths. Some claim it can do everything from improve their mood, give them more energy, or help with weight loss and reduced inflammation. Czech researchers say cold water plunging can increase blood concentrations of dopamine by 250%. Well, Forum Daily will be right back after the break, and when we return, we're going to be taking a look at energy prices and policies with Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy. Welcome back. It's time for our weekly energy update with Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy. Take it away, Dan.
Well, thank you, Nathaniel. And yes, another interesting week developing on the energy front, which of course affects the price of everything. I know that some people think it's sort of a pigeonhole thing where it's only about energy, but I think many are concluding now that energy prices actually do matter. Even the types that believe that they don't, because they don't drive a vehicle, they don't go to a gas station, it doesn't somehow affect them. We all go to grocery stores, and we all know that the cost of our utilities, the cost of keeping warm, is extraordinarily challenging at this time, especially given that about 50% of Canadians are saying that's it. To make matters worse, of course, higher interest rates, a function of inflation, a function of the fact that Canada and the Canadian dollar continue to weaken in the face of the US greenback, something that just didn't happen when we saw high energy prices back in the day, the 2011 to 2013 range, and again in 2008, when we saw these energy bubbles. Canadians got a bit of a benefit. The loonie did protect us because we were really the petrodollar. And that's critical to understand in terms of what we're seeing playing out right now, Nathaniel. We're going to be seeing what looks like about a 5 to 8 cent increase across the board over the next week. So while prices have moved up a little bit, whether you're in Vancouver, where prices are now pushing a lot closer to $1.82 from $1.75 last week, or whether you happen to be in Alberta, where you've been enjoying $1.25, $1.30 in some cases, look for that to increase about 5 cents a liter. Same for Saskatchewan. Similar to Winnipeg, although retail margins are very high there, I don't expect them to go more than 2 cents higher than what they are now at the $1.53 range, and $1.47, of course, in Saskatchewan. Ontario, though, is going to see 146.9 probably move to about $1.51 or $1.52, with Montreal and Quebec City moving from where they are today at the $1.62 range up to about $1.68, $1.69. And the Maritimes, which saw prices decrease last week, although radically, so in one case of Newfoundland, I know I pick on Newfoundland, but it's ironic. They actually wait because of the regulated system to continue to force people to pay higher prices than what the markets dictate until they get that 5-day average, and then suddenly they change prices. Again, no need for regulated prices when we have something called the internet. No need for regulated prices when you have everybody and their brother, including myself, going out predicting prices accurately throughout North America. But such is the case that Atlantic Canada, so Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland, and of course New Brunswick, tend to get held to the highest prices simply because you have bureaucrats trying to second guess what the market is doing. And that's very damaging to a part of the country that can least afford it, and ultimately ranks among the highest costs for energy jurisdictions in North America. So perhaps if our friends here in the Maritimes are listening, maybe time to call your MLA, your MNA, your local representative and say, listen, we're grown-ups now. We don't need to have this security blanket and jobs for bureaucrats. Give us the price that markets suggest. We'll get that 2-day prediction, and that'll give us an opportunity to make decisions on our own rather than some bizarre formula that the public has to pay for, but never gets the chance to have any input on as far as transparency. So on any score, regulated prices don't work. They haven't worked. They've actually hurt consumers. And that's my comment for the day as far as Atlantic Canada is concerned. Mind you, I do say this directly to most media, Saltwire Media, the VOCM, NTV. So what I'm saying here to this audience here is that we're hoping that perhaps things will change in the Maritimes and that people will have a little bit more accountability and transparency in terms of prices. Now, for the longer term, with what Russia has done today, announcing a 500,000 barrel, 500,000 barrel on top of the 2 million OPEC plus reduction in output for March, I think that spells almost certainly an increase in prices. And watch March, April, and May, as we've been saying here for some time, that we do need to in fact see that there is going to be a change in the way in which the direction of prices take place. Investors, those passive on the side who are investing in oil and gas, are eventually going to have to understand that the excuses no longer matter, and that, in fact, supply and demand fundamentals, economic fundamentals, are going to have to prevail. And starting this week, we're going to start to see that slow but sure increase in prices, especially as we head towards March. So, Nathaniel, that's it for this week. Brace. If you can get gas up today or diesel up today, best we start doing that now, because next week is going to become less pleasant, and in the weeks to come, we're going to see prices go much higher than most of us had anticipated.
Thanks for that, Dan. Again, that was Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy. Well, stay with us. When we come back from the break, we're going to be taking a look at the major news stories and headlines from around the world. Stay tuned. Oil prices are set to rise after Russia announced it is cutting production by 500,000 barrels per day starting next month. The move is in reaction to the decision by Canada and other G7 countries to cap the price of Russian crude over the war in Ukraine. Analysts had warned one possible Russian response would be to slash production to try to raise oil prices, which could eventually lead to higher gas prices at the pump as less oil makes it to the global market. Well, after days of devastation, emergency crews were able to make a series of dramatic rescues in Turkey today. They pulled about a dozen people from the rubble 4 days after a catastrophic earthquake killed more than 23,000 people. The 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit the border region between Turkey and Syria on Monday. With morgues and cemeteries overwhelmed, bodies lay wrapped in blankets, rugs, and tarps in the streets of some cities as temperatures remain below freezing. Meanwhile, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad made his first public appearance in an earthquake-devastated area of his country. China has dismissed a U.S. House of Representatives resolution condemning it over its suspected spy balloon, saying the charge is purely political manipulation and hype. A foreign ministry spokesperson told reporters Friday that China was strongly dissatisfied with this and firmly opposes it. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has shot down an unknown object flying in U.S. airspace off the coast of Alaska. That's according to White House officials on Friday. The development comes after the U.S. shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon on Saturday. In East Jerusalem, 2 people, including a 6-year-old, are dead and 5 others were hurt when a man rammed his car into several pedestrians at a bus stop in a Jewish settlement. 2 children are in critical condition. An off-duty Israeli police officer shot and killed the driver. Islamist militant groups Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas praised the suspected attack, but did not immediately claim responsibility. Moldova's government collapsed Friday as pro-Western Prime Minister Natalia Gavrilitsa resigned. It adds to a series of crises that have gripped the small country since Russia invaded its neighbor Ukraine. Ms. Gavrilitsa told a news conference that time has come for me to announce my resignation. It said no one expected her government, elected in the summer of 2021, would have to manage so many crises caused by Russian aggression in Ukraine. Her premiership was marked by a long string of problems. These include an acute energy crisis, skyrocketing inflation, and several troublesome incidents linked to the war. The UK's economy stagnated in the final 3 months of last year. This as a cost of living crisis has squeezed household budgets, crippled business investments, and fueled labor unrest. The Office for National Statistics says GDP failed to grow during the 4th quarter of 2022. The UK faces a prolonged economic slowdown triggered by soaring food and energy prices. A review of criminal case files reveals corruption is undermining the management of some of the world's most threatened fishing grounds. The Associated Press found that at least 45 government officials in various countries have been accused of graft or extortion in the past 2 decades. The situation is most critical in areas managed by developing countries because many industrialized countries have already overfished their own waters, forcing them to send their fishing fleets across the globe. The International Olympic Committee held a summit today to discuss how to respond to Ukraine's push for Russian athletes to be barred from next year's Paris Olympics. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told sports ministers today that there should be no place for Russian athletes while the war in Ukraine continues. The committee is working on a plan to allow Russian and Belarusian athletes who have actively not supported the war to enter qualifying events for the 2024 Games. Well, as the NFL's Super Bowl approaches, the U.S. National Chicken Council reports Americans are set to wolf down 1.45 billion chicken wings this weekend. And some of them will be boneless, and therefore aren't actual chicken wings, but a cheaper alternative. The council says marketing boneless wings is a way to move more boneless and skinless breast meat that is in ample supply. Well, when Super Bowl 57 kicks off Sunday night with the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in Glendale, Arizona, big marketers will be battling it out during the TV broadcast. This year, crypto ads and automakers are advertising less since those industries are facing problems. Major food brands like M&M's, tech companies like Google, streaming services including Peacock, and more alcohol brands have jumped in to take their place. They'll pay more than $7 million for a 30-second ad. They'll reach more than 100 million viewers expected to tune in for the big game. Well, no matter who you're cheering for, we wish both teams the best of luck. I'm Nathaniel Duick, filling in for Nima Rajan, and that'll do it for your look at national and international news for today. Remember, for more news on demand, you can always visit our website, thenewsforum.ca, and make sure to follow us on our social media handles. You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our commentary program on the News Forum YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us today on Forum Daily, and we'll see you next time. Be well.